Thank you, everybody. Last week was the beginning of the series of the first 4 chapters of the Science of Mind textbook. And Reverend Dar and Dr. J talked about the thing itself. That thing that God, universal intelligence, divine spirit, first cause, the source of all, the life and energy of all. The Bible says in Acts 17:28, in him we live, move, and have our being. So, as Dr. Ernest Holmes would say, the life we live is the universal life, is God expressing through us. So that means we really are individualized expressions of God. And that's a pretty good thing to remember when we're having one of those days where we're not feeling so good about ourselves. Just go back to the truth. Well, we know that that's our essence, but how does it work? How does the whole process of life work? What makes our lives the way they are? Well, in the Science of Mind textbook, it says we are immersed in this universal essence, this infinite intelligence, this mind that knows all things and in which the potential of all things exists. Yet, this intelligence can acquaint us with its ideas only as we are able and willing to receive them. For remember, we have free will. Dr. Holmes says, what we draw from it, we must draw through the channel of our minds. And to do this, a unity must be established and a conscious connection must be made. This means that we really do have access to all wisdom. And it's an important thing to remember when we're stressed out and worried about something and have just pushed our rational mind to come up with a solution and nothing's happening. That's when it's important to remember that we can open to that divine wisdom, to that inner voice that will guide us if we open to it. Dr. Holmes says we should state and feel that our mind knows the truth about the thing we desire to know. And then, of course, we have to relax and let go and know it's being revealed. And as we go through the day, the revelation may come immediately or it may come a little later. So if we go back into that worry mode, that stress mode again, a quick treatment, divine right action, highest good, just to keep knowing the truth so that God law may respond, that opening to the wisdom will be there. In one of my Science of Mind 300 classes, we were discussing this idea. And some of the students said that when they were feeling perplexed, couldn't find an answer to some issue, that they would meditate, do prayer treatment, and then just meditate and know the answer was there. And interesting the way the response was. For some people, as soon as they were out of the meditation or during it, an answer would come. For other people, it would be later in the day or in a dream. Or have you ever been drawn to the bookshelf and pull out that book, whatever it is. So it can come in all different ways. And what's exciting is that really there is no limit to infinite wisdom and infinite possibilities. I was talking to one of my friends, and her husband had had hip surgery and now was going to have knee surgery from this very unique surgeon. He has a degree as a mechanical engineer as well as a doctor. And For most hip and knee replacements, there's a lot of cutting, and the recovery takes a fair amount of time. Well, he decided to open to divine wisdom and say, there's got to be a better way. Well, the idea came to him, why not make a smaller incision and then take either the knee or the hip, depending on what you're operating on, out piece by piece. And so he did that, and then when he would put the new hip joint or new knee in, he would again assemble it piece by piece, and instead of using stitches, super glue. So he came up with this idea, and nobody else had ever thought of this. And he's actually, right now, the only one in the country doing this. But you know, what would seem impossible when we just have our limited intelligence thinking about it, when we open to divine wisdom, the impossible really is possible. I thought it was interesting. My friend said to the surgeon, because they were there on the, you know, how they do the pre-operation thing, meeting with the doctor, and she said, why are you the only one in the country who does this? And he says, well, the other doctors think it's difficult. Sounds pretty difficult to me. But he has to keep, besides coming up with the idea, knowing he can do it, and he does it. So when you think about it, what makes our lives the way they are? You've heard often the quote by Ernest Holmes, love points the way and law makes the way possible. To me, it's like love is that cosmic force, and law is the creative medium, almost the process by which things happen. And of course, we direct God law by our thoughts and emotions or our beliefs. That's the way it works. Well, my friend that I was talking to who told me about this doctor also told me about a really interesting situation. And she's the one who actually introduced me to religious science years ago. She said that she and her husband had gone to visit her daughter for Christmas, and they were driving to the New York airport, and they needed to go that day to fly to Chicago, where this doctor is, and then he was going to have the surgery the next day. Well, as they were driving to the New York airport, it started to snow. And when they got to the airport, their plane wasn't there. But she kept knowing, because this doctor is booked through May, and her husband's Cobra was going to run out before then. So if they missed this appointment, it would be a big problem. But she kept knowing it's all going to work out. Well, the plane arrived, they boarded them, they de-iced, and then, even though there was a great big long line of planes waiting to take off, for some reason, they went to the front of the line and they took off. And I think it was one more plane got out before the major storm hit that closed the airport for days. So believe and you shall receive. It works. When you think about your life, when I think about mine, sometimes we go through times of being unhappy or not as happy as usual. And why does this happen? Because somehow we're starting to no longer believe in our good, whether it's conscious or subconscious.